A prophet of yes, we can. Tonight, his political twilight brings him back to say, yes, we must. I'm Brent Goff, and this is The Day.
Governing institutions, whether in Athens, Brussels, London, Washington, have to be responsive to the concerns of citizens. People have to know that they're being heard. Now, this impulse to pull back from a globalized world is understandable. If people feel that they're losing control of their future, they will push back. What we've also seen is that this global integration is increasing the tendencies towards inequality, both between nations and within nations. Today, more than ever, the world needs a Europe that is strong and prosperous and democratic.
Well, welcome to the program, everyone. To tell the truth, who does that anymore? If you think there has been a lot less of that this year, you're not alone, but there's no safety in those numbers either. The post-truth era is very much a part of our present. The people at Oxford Dictionaries, they're going to explain later in the show. We begin the day with a U.S. president returning to Berlin, returning to claim his stake in history as well. Well, back in 2008, the presidential candidate, Barack Obama, came to Berlin on a warm summer day, greeted by unprecedented numbers of well-wishers, and he committed himself to America and the world. Yes, we can. Well, 8 years later, his commitment remains. That America and that world, well, they're hard to find. No summer, just cold and rain outside tonight. President Obama stepped off of Air Force One this evening before heading into central Berlin for dinner with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Tomorrow, they plan to hold one-to-one talks. In this era of Brexit and Donald Trump, Obama's currency appears to be weakening, and that's where Berlin comes in again. The German capital is where Chancellor Angela Merkel was waiting tonight to greet Mr. Obama. Obama said earlier this week that Merkel has been his closest ally these past 8 years. Her presence has never been so important to his legacy and to the future of Europe and the U.S. We'll talk about that in just a moment with the man who wrote the definitive biography of Barack Obama, David Maraniss. But first, consider the words Obama spoke to the people of Athens, Greece, earlier today.
The Acropolis in Greece, the birthplace of democracy. Obama's visit here was long planned, but in the light of Donald Trump's victory last week, his visit has added poignancy. In what's likely to be his last major address abroad as president, Obama opened his speech in Athens with a tribute to the importance of democratic ideals.
The basic longing to live with dignity, the fundamental desire to have control of our lives and our future, and to want to be a part of determining the course of our communities and our nations. These yearnings are universal.
There was praise, too, for his Greek hosts for taking in so many desperate migrants.
Because our democracies are inclusive, we're able to welcome people and refugees in need to our countries. And nowhere have we seen that compassion more evident than here in Greece. Greek people's generosity towards refugees arriving on your shores has inspired the world.
But he also warned that they couldn't shoulder the burden alone. Obama's farewell trip has also become a voyage designed to calm America's jittery allies about the future of NATO under a Trump administration.
Facilitate economic growth. And I am confident that just as America's commitment to the transatlantic alliance has endured for 7 decades, whether it's been under a Democratic or Republican administration, that commitment will continue, including our pledge and our treaty obligation to defend every ally.
In Berlin, Obama will aim to reassure Europe that America's interests remain fundamentally unchanged. But doubts about his firebrand successor are likely to overshadow upcoming meetings with the German Chancellor and other European leaders.
Well, I'm joined now by David Maraniss. He's a Washington Post journalist, and he's author of the book Barack Obama, The Story. David, welcome to the day. It's good to have you with us. We want to start
Thank you, Brian.
with the Obama that Berlin fell in love with 8 years ago. Take a listen to this.
This city, of all cities, knows the dream of freedom.
I mean, that was just a short clip that we had there. When we look at, obviously, a much younger Obama, we have to think about how he has changed the last 8 years. Your book is very much about Barack Obama's search for identity. How would you describe the change of Obama from when he made that speech here in 2008 to now as his time as president ends?
Well, of course, one change is in his hair. It's grayer now. But the main change has to do with sort of reality hitting idealism. That speech he gave in Berlin in 2008 was in many ways the same evocation as the speech in America, in Boston in 2004 that brought him into national prominence. It's a speech of universality, of treating people of all different races and nationalities with dignity. It is what Obama believes in because that is him. He is what they call in Hawaii a hapa, a mixed-race human being. He sees the world in a very universal way, and that's the way he came into office. And then on both the national stage in dealing with the Republican opposition in America, and on the international stage with all of the messes of this modern world, he's had to deal with reality, which has aged him and made it much more difficult for him to hold on to that early electricity and idealism.
He remains popular in the United States. Here in Germany, polls show that most Germans think the world needs more, not less Obama. What does he have that has so much currency across borders? I mean, is it his empathy?
He does have empathy, even though he's not, he's more of a rational human being and I sometimes call him a rational man in an increasingly irrational world. But he does have that empathy that reaches to everyone because he is, in a sense, an everyman. As I said, because his father was from Kenya, his mother was from the middle of America, he grew up in Hawaii, lived in Indonesia. He knows the world, and he has that empathy for people throughout the world. And I think that that is what has made him so popular around the world. It transcends any particular policies that he's done, but just that evocation of this as one world. And of course, that comes at a time when we have this incredible tension between nationalism and something larger.
He's also been called the most European president that America has ever had. What does that mean?
Well, it can mean a lot of things. I mean, first of all, he's cool. And I think that, European Americans can be seen as sort of a little bit like rubes compared to Europeans. Obama doesn't have that. He also, as I said before, he has a universal sensibility. He's not a nativist in any sense. Yeah. And Europe is struggling with nativism in various ways right now, but you're also condensely packed together all the different countries of Europe that you've had to deal with with one another and cross-cultural lines for so long in different languages. And Obama is part of that world more so than any nativist sensibility.
Let me ask you a little bit about Obama and the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. What do you think of this? Is Angela Merkel now in the role that a president-elect Hillary Clinton would have had? I mean, is he passing the baton of leader of the free, liberal, democratic world instead of to Hillary Clinton, now to Angela Merkel?
You know, Brent, that's a very interesting construction. And in some ways, it very well might be true. Obviously, Angela Merkel has become his closest ally in the West. They have some traits, characteristics in common. They both sort of have this science gene in them, very rational people. And I think that with the so many huge question marks involving the next president of the United States, Donald Trump, and with Hillary receding into the background and the Democrats not quite knowing where they are right now, I think in some ways Angela Merkel does take that mantle.
And they didn't start off 8 years ago, anything close to bosom buddies. I mean, and now he says that she has become his closest ally. I mean, that talks a lot too about an evolution, right?
Absolutely. And necessity, is the mother of design. I mean, I think that they, by necessity, were drawn together. But also, as I said, they do have certain common characteristics, the main one being rational thought and careful deliberation. Your Prime Chancellor was a chemist. Obama was not a scientist, but he has a scientific-oriented mind. The fact that she was so open to the refugee problem when much of Europe wasn't meant an awful lot to Obama. The difficulties with Russia and standing up to Putin. I think that he found in her both a policy ally and someone who shared some of his personal characteristics.
Obama has been held up as an example around the world of progress in race relations, particularly in the United States, a role model for the world. It's the case as well here in Germany. Can you venture inside his mind for a moment? What is his relationship now to the race issue now that Trump has won, knowing that you have some very unsavory elements that are close to the KKK, for example, that are about to be inside the Oval Office now? What's going on in his mind?
Well, this is a major setback. There's no way around that. For everything that Barack Obama stands for, Donald Trump stands against in some ways. But the issue is long-term. And to understand President Obama, you have to understand that his way of thinking has always been long-term. And so if you look at it that way, is this Trump presidency just a last gasp of a white America that is on the decline and was able to have this one final moment? And will 8 years, 12 years, 20 years, 50 years from now, it just be seen as that blip in what is demographically a changing America? More of an Obama America? I think he looks at it that way, but this moment is very, very difficult.
Do you think that in moments, when he has, total silence and he's able to think about things, would he think that he was president too early in American history? Or would you say he was perhaps president of the wrong country, that maybe he should have been president of a country in Europe instead?
I would say neither of those things. I don't think he would think that. I think he's someone who's very astute about timing. Some people thought he tried to run too early, but it was his chance and he took it. And he carried the country for 8 years. He looks at it in the long haul, as I said. He's a disciple of Martin Luther King. The arc of progress is long, but it bends toward justice. I think that is how Barack Obama looks at his presidency. He's had a major setback in the election of Donald Trump, but is it a sharp 180-degree turn or just one setback on a course that he wants the country to follow? And I think he would say the latter.
David, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to be on the day with us tonight. Fascinating insights into a president, a politician, a leader who is in the twilight of his tenure. David Maraniss, Washington Post journalist and author of
Thank you,
Barack
Brad.
Obama, The Story. David, thank you very much.